You're watching Monty TV. I'm Jackie Karsh, sitting down again with Aled Miles. He's the CEO of workflow automation platform, Formstack. Thank you so much for sitting down with me again, Aled.
Great to see you again. Thank you.
All right, you are my favorite chameleon, always coming into a company and building it back up. What's your strategy or game plan when you come into a company at first?
Well, Jackie, thank you for asking. I've sort of made a bit of a career recently taking over what we would describe as perhaps distressed companies. So I have a couple of thresholds. I'm no startup guy. I will create a statue in the bottom of the garden to people who are founders. I haven't got the skill set. So I take over companies that are about 60, 70, $80 million plus, trying to get over that $100 million mark. So it's really about three aspects of scale. Does the company have the fiscal capability to scale? Does it have enough cash or free cash flow or investment? Two, does it have a one-to-many go-to-market strategy so that it can scale beyond that? And then, of course, most importantly, can the product scale at speed, the right velocity, so that larger organizations that are using the platform more and more, the platform doesn't fall apart. And I think if you get those three things right, then you can sail over that magic $100 million mark.
Sometimes when you come into a distressed company, everything's kind of chaotic. What's your first step? How do you clean up first?
You know, my favorite book is a book called Surfing the Edge of Chaos. And it talks about chaos in a more positive way than perhaps we always think about chaos. Sometimes chaos can be good, but you have to provide some order. So the first thing I look for is, does this company have a line of sight? Does it have purpose? Does it understand what it wants to be? And does it understand how to get there? Plenty of people will work for money, but if you get passionate about what a company does, if it has true purpose, then that doesn't feel like work. So setting that right first off, I think is one of the most important things that you can do before you get to the fiscal foundations.
All right, but you also always bring a vibe to the company. You call yourself a chief energy officer. What does that mean and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a thing I have. You know, the phrase chief executive officer always sounds so...
Too sussy.
Well, too fancy. But the truth of the matter is, I think that the real E in CEO is about understanding the energy of a company, the energy of the people within it, the energy of customers, the energy of the market, and then what energy do I bring? And it's not always about being extrovert or the front guy. Sometimes it's about understanding what the energy is that the company needs and how I as the CEO need to come across. You know, what do they say? Is it culture eats strategy for breakfast? And I'm a believer that you have to balance both. If you don't get the strategy of a company right, then you have no direction. That's about creating that line of sight. And so there's a lot of work to be done, and I use a 4-point process: diagnosis, strategy, alignment, execution. And usually in a company, 1, 2, 3, or sometimes all 4 are incorrect. So if you don't diagnose correctly, how do you get the strategy right? Underpinned by a data management and activation capability that change the strategy of our company. Now you get the company aligned and you go execute.
Well, that really speaks to your leadership style and how it really affects the entire company. It's not just the direction, but also the culture.
Yes, I always say it's a march, not an invasion. It's a feather, not a sledgehammer. But sometimes people feel that if the culture changes that much, they want to leave. And that's also okay. It's hard when people quit and stay, because that affects everybody else in the company. So getting culture and alignment right, absolutely critical. Goes back to energy.
And you always do it. Aled, thank you always for sitting down with us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.